What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in this video I want to talk about a concept that I haven't really fleshed out before, and that is the idea that you don't have to be on all the time, as the title is, right? So what do I mean by that? I find that sometimes younger lifters, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be newer lifters, but just younger lifters in general, feel like if they're not at 100% in the session, that what they're doing is basically a waste of time. Or it's, I've had so many times where somebody will basically tell me like, yeah, man, I went in, I was warming up and I felt so much weaker than usual. It just killed my attitude. So I packed up everything and went home. And I get where the person is coming from, because they're thinking, well, if I can't beat what I did last time significantly, if I can't come in and perform the way that I'm used to performing, I'm not going to make progress anyway. So what's the point of even doing this workout? And that's kind of the mentality that I want to correct here. Now, this is especially true if you're using RPE training. You don't have to be you don't have to be 100% motivated and on in every single session. Let's say you're training 4, 5, 6 times a week. Most of your sessions are sub-maximal volume work. It's just not even realistic to expect somebody to come in pumped up. They just listened to their favorite, motivation YouTube video. Like they just got some Eric Thomas going on the car ride to the gym, and their motivation levels are 1,000 out of 100. Okay, that's just unrealistic to think that you're going to be able to summon that type of intensity 5 or 6 days per week, especially if you're doing sub-maximal training, where generally speaking with sub-maximal training, what's going to push adaptation is that you're going to be overloading volume primarily. You're not necessarily overloading absolute intensity. So here's the big thing that I think people need to understand, and it is that just because you are not getting a very precise weight doesn't mean that it isn't causing adaptation. So here's kind of what I mean by that. I think some people get the wrong idea sometimes that if you have an RPE program or a percentage-based program, that you have to hit it exactly precisely in order to make progress. And this is not true, okay? It's just not true. Even if you've already done, let's say, 100 kilos or pounds for 5 reps before, you can still get strength adaptations from a whole range of numbers around 100 pounds. You don't have to beat it every single time, okay? Having a day where your readiness is lower, where your strength is a little bit lower, you can still accumulate meaningful volume. Here's another one that really gets people. When they say like, okay, let's say they've got a set of 5 at RPE 8, and they're not sure if it's really RPE 7 or RPE 7.5, or maybe it's 8.5, or maybe it's RPE 9, because they're just really bad at the RPE. And it doesn't matter. Like, the RPE just puts you in a range. There is a range of weights that will provide meaningful adaptation. Now, of course, you're going to get better results, ideally, if you follow what your coach wrote as closely as possible. But at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter if it was RPE 7.5 or RPE 8. And maybe even to a larger degree, if it's actually RPE 7 versus RPE 8, you're still within 2 to 3% or so of the intended recommendation. Do you really think that strength training is so precise that you have to be accurate within less than 2 to 3% confidence intervals in order to have a productive session where you make progress? Okay, that's ridiculous, and it's completely false. And so that's what I want to get across to people here, is that you can accumulate meaningful volume even on days where you're not at 100% and you're not doing weights that you're not able to do the weights that you normally would. And that's because with submaximal training, with higher frequency training, volume-based training, you're primarily overloading through volume. And in fact, you may have days where, due to the setup of the microcycles, the setup of the training week, where you feel worse than other days in the training week. And I've already said that's completely normal. It doesn't mean that you should just go home. You're not expected to go to the gym as an intermediate or advanced trainee and set a PR every single time you lift. And I guarantee you that if you start to get into that mentality, you're not going to last very long in this sport, because everything to you is going to be this emotional roller coaster. Every single training session, you're up or you're down based on your level of readiness. And again, you just don't have to be that precise. You don't. If anything within maybe a 5% range of what is intended is still going to give you some sort of meaningful training effect. Obviously, you want it to be as close as possible. I've already said that. I'm not saying anything to the contrary. However, at the same time, it doesn't have to be so precise that you're, within 5 pounds or within 2.5 kilos of the prescription to still get a training effect. And so what this means is that if you are on a given day, say tired because you had outside life stress, or you didn't sleep well, or you didn't eat well, or you're just beat up from hard training, you don't just pack up and go home, okay? You can still get meaningful volume done when you are under the weather, because it doesn't have to be that precise. Every single session, you don't have to be 100% on. Your motivation doesn't have to be 1,000 out of 100 every single session. Every single session, everything doesn't have to feel crispy and explosive. You're going to have to do sessions under fatigue, because at some point, you're going to become advanced enough that the level of volume that you're handling is going to make it so that you are accumulating fatigue from week to week, and you are not expected to fully recover from your training as an intermediate or advanced trainee at the end of every single week. That's why training is set up into blocks, and each block may start off easier to allow some of the fatigue from the last one to dissipate, or you may have a deload at the end of each block, but in some way, shape, or another, your coach or you or the program you're running is going to manage fatigue at the end of each block. It's not going to be a case where every single workout you're 100% and you set PRs all the time. You need to get rid of that expectation. It doesn't happen past the novice phase, and even just expecting it to happen will ruin your mentality on those training sessions where you're not feeling 100%, so you automatically think that the session is kind of a quote-unquote bad day. Just because you're using a little bit less weight than you normally would doesn't make it a bad day. It just means that you're fatigued and you're going to still be able to accumulate meaningful volume. That's really what I'm getting at here, is it doesn't have to be this amazing crown jewel training session of crispy explosiveness in order for it to count towards further strength gains. It can be a kind of punch the clock work day where you go in, you're not super hyped, you're not super excited, you're not super down, you're pretty much even keeled, and you go in and you get within, close to the prescription that you were supposed to do, and you can still make gains from those types of sessions. Not every session has to be 100% on all the time. And that's really all I have to say about that, guys. I hope you take that one to heart. I know it's not really saying anything concrete, like what is that, how do you apply this? I'm not really sure how you apply this, but I guess I'm just saying it to change some of your guys' expectations about what you should expect from every single training session that you do, because not every single one is going to be PR City with crispy, explosive movements that feel greater than they ever have. Anyways, as always, my friends, good luck with your training, and have a nice day. Peace.